Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's material because we're looking at a story that completely shatters our conventional understanding of duty, love, and family. Today, we're exploring a deeply moving historical and spiritual text detailing the life of Zhao Shifei. We're going to take a journey together, one that starts with intense earthly suffering and unthinkable abuse, but ultimately leads to a profound spiritual revelation. A revelation that's really going to make you question what it truly means to care for the people you love. Listen to this. Providing food and shelter for your parents is not true filial piety. Okay, that is a seriously bold, provocative claim. No way around it. And this comes directly from a channeled spiritual message from Zhao Shifei himself after his death. But to understand why a man who literally sacrificed his youth, his body, and his dignity to provide for his family would say that basic earthly care just isn't enough, we have to look at the incredible chronological story that actually justifies it. So how did he get to this radical conclusion? Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, Silent Endurance in Suffering. So our story kicks off in the Qing dynasty, over in Fenghua County. And to say Zhao had a difficult childhood, that would be a massive understatement. His birth mother passed away when he was only 2 years old. His father was a logger who spent weeks, sometimes months, away in the mountains hunting for premium timber. Realizing the boy needed a mother figure, the father remarried a widow who had 2 sons of her own. But instead of finding a nurturing home, Zhao walked into a nightmare of severe physical and emotional neglect. His new stepmother was incredibly two-faced. When his dad was home, she was the picture of a loving, doting mother. But the moment he left for work, the cruelty really began. Zhao was relegated to eating nothing but scraps. We're talking maybe a few leftover vegetable leaves and a half bowl of watery porridge. And he only got that after his stepmother and stepbrothers had completely finished their meals. Think about the sheer superhuman endurance here. Despite doing all the household chores and taking constant beatings, he just kept going. In his own words, the pain was absolutely crushing. He said, "I only hid under the covers at night crying, thinking of my own mother." Yet, remarkably, he never fought back. He was told to yield to his younger stepbrothers, letting them hit and curse him without retaliation. Through all of this, he maintained an unyielding respect for his stepmother. He treated her as if she were his own flesh and blood, even though he received absolutely zero love in return. Which brings us to a major turning point. Part 2, Winter Whipping and Eviction. Now, what's really interesting here is how that silent endurance eventually hits a breaking point. One day, while Zhao is respectfully bowing to his birth mother's spirit tablet, his stepbrothers start maliciously mocking him, calling him a motherless wild child. But words weren't enough for them. They grabbed the sacred spirit tablet, threw it right on the ground, and actually began stomping on it. In a desperate split-second reaction to save his mother's sacred memorial, Zhao pushed one of his brothers away. He didn't mean to strike him, but with his laborer's strength, the push sent the boy crashing into the wall. The stepmother's retaliation, it was just absolute cruelty. Without even asking what happened, she strips Zhao of his clothes and viciously beats him with a bamboo cane. And she doesn't stop there. She forces him to stand outside, bare and bleeding, in the freezing, bitter cold of a winter night. And yet, the text tells us Zhao showed incredible restraint. When his father eventually returned, Zhao just swallowed his pain. He never uttered a single word of complaint, honestly believing that enduring this torture was necessary just to keep the family peace. So how do you react when your loyalty and your silence are rewarded with straight-up exile? When Zhao reached adulthood and got married, his aging father decided to distribute his life savings. The stepmother, absolutely terrified that Zhao, as the eldest, would get the lion's share, framed him. She spun this massive web of lies to the father, accusing Zhao of gross disrespect and trying to tear the family apart. The father, completely blinded by her manipulation, angrily evicted Zhao and his new wife from the house. No trial, no chance to explain. Recalling this ultimate betrayal, Zhao's own words paint a devastating picture. He said, "I was entirely helpless, forced to silently swallow my tears and walk away into the unknown."
This leads us right into Part 3, Tolerance of Repaying Malice with Virtue.
And this brilliantly illustrates a massive pivot in the story. We go from profound sorrow to an incredible triumph of virtue. Thrown out with absolutely nothing, Zhao starts over as a simple manual laborer, and the fates of the family members sharply diverge from here. On one side, the unfilial stepbrothers get their hands on the father's hard-earned savings, squander the whole shebang on debauchery, and quickly abandon their parents. Meanwhile, starting with nothing but his bare hands and sheer grit, Zhao's incredible work ethic slowly builds a prosperous life. He eventually welcomes a son and cultivates this beautifully loving, peaceful household. Fast forward, and eventually the father and stepmother, now completely destitute and totally abandoned by those favorite sons, they come crawling to Zhao's door, begging for shelter. And what does Zhao do? He doesn't gloat. He doesn't turn them away. He unconditionally takes them in and treats them flawlessly. This radical act of forgiveness, repaying years of pure malice with virtue, it finally broke the stepmother. Confronted with the unconditional love of the boys she had literally tortured, she wept in deep repentance, confessing her cruelty and finally learning compassion herself. Now, let's scale this up. Part 4, Universal Love Extending to Others. See, Zhao's virtue refused to just stop at his front door. He took this immense tolerance he built up in the crucible of his family and scaled his morality from the micro right to the macro. Remembering his own agonizing days as a motherless child, Zhao actively sought out the local orphans in his village, providing the care that he was once denied. He treated the village elders with the exact same deep respect he showed his own parents. His actions spoke so loudly that his descendants naturally followed his example, creating a family line famous throughout the whole region for its strong moral character. He found ultimate inner peace, spending his later years volunteering to sweep the local temples until he peacefully passed away at the age of 79. 500. Yeah, 500. That is the number of years the Jade Emperor granted Zhao as a respected deity in the Qi realm. According to the channel text, the heavens observed his unparalleled earthly virtue, his care for orphans, his respect for elders, and his supreme filial piety, and rewarded him with half a millennium of divine status. So let's shift gears and look at part 5, sublimation. Small to great filial piety. Now, if this were just a historical, moral tale, it would probably end right there. But speaking from the spirit realm, Zhao reveals a truth that completely shatters our worldly understanding. He says, "I feel ashamed." The man who endured freezing beatings and exile just to provide for his abusers says he is ashamed. Why? Because, as he realized, making them worry-free with food and shelter only gives temporary bodily enjoyment. It doesn't actually save their souls. So the crucial point is this ultimate spiritual mandate. Great filial piety, or Da Shao. What is it? It's the transcendent act of pulling your family out of the suffering of the physical world, what the text calls the 5 turbidities world, and saving them from the endless cycle of reincarnation. From his divine vantage point, Zhao realized that all his earthly suffering to provide physical comfort was really just a band-aid. True love, ultimate devotion, means guiding your loved ones toward the Tao, toward true spiritual salvation. Which brings us to our final core concept. Part 6, True Salvation, Transcending Reincarnation. This really challenges our baseline assumptions about love and duty. We so often think that making our parents physically comfortable is the absolute highest honor we can give them, right? But the text draws a hard line between the two. Small filial piety is bound up in worldly ties, human resentments, and temporary physical comfort. Even at its absolute most perfect, like Zhao's earthly life, it ends when the body dies. Great filial piety, though, is about spiritual salvation. It's about escaping rebirth and securing eternal peace. Zhao is telling us that if we're too attached to worldly perfection and human grievances, we miss the forest for the trees. True love actually requires sacrificing our obsession with the temporary physical world to secure their eternal peace. Let's move to how this actually builds into a profound call to action for anyone on a spiritual path. The text urges us to discard the small to fulfill the great. It speaks of this rare opportunity to participate in the 3-realm salvation. But to do this, one must sacrifice the small self, our egos, our earthly grudges, our obsession with just material care, for the much greater good. We have to help our ancestors and loved ones escape the endless cycle of the 4 forms of birth entirely. It's just a breathtaking expansion of what family duty actually means. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. I want you to really ask yourself, are you merely practicing small filial piety, or are you ready to embrace the great filial piety of true spiritual salvation? Zhao Shifei absolutely proved that human endurance and forgiveness have no bounds. But even he realized that eternity requires a different kind of love entirely. It leaves us to look inward and ask, how are we truly caring for the ones we love? Are we just making them comfortable for now, or are we helping to save them forever? Think on that. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey, and I'll catch you on the next one.